Japan, land of tradition, where ancient custom keeps the rhythm of man aligned with the rhythm of nature. This is Japan. But is it Japanorama?
No, this is
Japanorama.
Japanorama.
Hello, konnichiwa, and welcome to Japanorama, in a place where they don't know the meaning of the word no, although they probably have a word in their own language which means exactly the same thing. Now, samurai were professional warriors that belonged to the Japanese feudal aristocracy. In the mid-19th century, the samurai overthrew the shoguns, thus ending the feudal system. So well done, but we don't need you anymore, thanks for not killing us. However, the samurai ethic, Bushido, discipline, stoicism, service, lives on in modern-day Japan, and indeed in tonight's program, Swords and What to Using It. So tonight I'll be visiting Kazuo Koike, who's not only responsible for the Baby Cart Samurai series, but might also help you with your golf. Think samurai films are just a bunch of old-fashioned guys grunting in the mud? Well, you need to discover a ponytail hipster named Nakano and his rock and roll take on samurai fiction. Plus, we've got loads of old-fashioned guys grunting in the mud. Bushido. In Japan, manga, or comic books, are not only wildly popular, but also a highly respected and often genuinely moving form of literary expression. And for my money, the master of manga writing is a Mr. Kazuo Koike. Kazuo Koike has written some of Japan's best-known manga stories. Lady Snowblood, the tale of a female samurai. Crying Freeman, about an unstoppable hitman who always sheds a tear after killing. And his manga opus, Lone Wolf and Cub, 8,400 gripping pages and inspired 6 knockout films. What do you think of the manga scene in this country, and how do you feel about the fact that it's now so popular in the rest of the world?
Japanese manga is probably the most read in the world at the moment. Japan is at its best when it comes to manga because of the method of expression. Japanese manga artists are really good at making stories and characters come alive.
Many of Koike's manga have been turned into films, but it's the Lone Wolf and Cub features of the early 70s that impel me, despite the twinges of early arthritis, to bow low and long to Koike-san. Set in the 17th century during the Edo period, each stars Tomasaburo Wakayama as Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf chooses to follow the bloody path to vengeance, but lets the baby, Daigoro, decide whether to submit meekly to an unjust death or to join him on the road to hell. Will Daigoro choose the ball or the sword? The sword it is. So together they roam the countryside, hiring themselves out as paid assassins while taking bloody revenge on their enemies.
やはり侍社会っていうのは日本だけの
The samurai is Japan's own. Europe has its jousting knights and America has its cowboy heroes. I think what triggered the worldwide hit was the delicate balance of his masculinity as a samurai and the fact that he brings the kid up along the way.
はいよしよしおかげさまでありがとうございますよしこれで何とぞ
金はいらんちょうどこの子も腹が減っていた
What did you think of the casting of Tomasaburo Wakayama in the lead role?
He's my best friend, Mr. Wakayama.
And it was because of this friendship, as well as the fact that he is the #1 samurai in Japan. He is so good at using the sword. That's why I used him for the main role.
Over the course of the series, Daigoro takes on the 100-yard stare of a hardened combat veteran. And the baby cart evolves from a simple pram to a key component of their arsenal.
I needed to create that baby cart, and it needed to have a weapon. As a result, people liked it.
Eventually, the baby cart becomes a sophisticated, weapons-laden vehicle that even James Bond would be proud of. Koiki's manga about a female samurai, Lady Snowblood, is set in the late 19th century. It inspired 2 great films. Lady Snowblood was raised from birth to be a tool of pure vengeance for the evils done to her parents. Was it a strange concept having a female samurai? Is there a historical precedent for that, or was it something you invented because you knew it would make an exciting fiction?
That
was a fiction I invented. That was all fiction apart from the setting. That was real Japan 100 years ago, the Meiji era. Basically, most of the stuff I write is pure fiction.
Koiki continues to write historical manga, but he has another passion, golf. He publishes a golf magazine for which, naturally, he writes an exciting golf manga. Do you think we could say that in the modern day golfer, we find today's samurai?
Yes. Golf is the game that puts importance in manners before the rules. And in a sense, by putting such value in manners, golf can be said to be similar to the samurai spirit.
Let me show them the bag you have here. This is very impressive. This is the Siegfried and Roy caddy bag from the Mirage Casino, Las Vegas. Now that's class. Wow. Good shot. Okay, what's this? Was that a 4? You know, it's not the first time I've seen myself on tape and felt shame.
Japanorama.
Well, Bushido is one thing, but how do you handle yourself in a country where 82% of the hygiene-mad population, and this is an acknowledged fact, refuse to share a toilet with a stranger, even at rush hour? How about taking an etiquette lesson?
Welcome to the Modern Manners Etiquette School. This week, we will practice how to bow. This is incorrect. You must bow from the heart. When doing a casual bow, you must bend your upper body at a 10-degree angle and make sure your bow lasts at least 3 seconds. Isn't it beautiful?
Japanorama.
Bushido! In early 19th century Japan, being blind wasn't such a sweet gig. Bad guys, not realising that it was politically incorrect to prey on the physically challenged, were constantly attacking. From this premise sprang Zatoichi, the blind swordsman, a hugely successful series of films and television programmes spanning 3 decades. Zatoichi is the epitome of chambara, or sword fight movies. Audiences love to see the triumph of the ultimate underdog, especially one who's such a hard-drinking, hard-gambling, well, snob.
変な音がしたな。どうした？どうした？ヘチマはあるかい？鼻がが枯れるどころか目が開きそうだ。本当だ。これはひでえや。
Zatoichi is played by Katsu Shintaro, whose brother starred in the Baby Cart films. Zatoichi meets the one-armed swordsman pits 2 physically challenged heroes against one another. The one-armed swordsman is the hero of a long-running series of Hong Kong films starring Wang Yu, seen here in the final showdown with Zatoichi. Both are good guys, but because one speaks Chinese and the other Japanese, this cannot be communicated. And so, tragically, one must die. The samurai is probably the most iconic character in Japanese cinema, but until recently, nobody had attempted to update the genre. In 1998, a pop video director named Hiroyuki Nakano cast the rock star Hotei in his first feature, and the result? Samurai fiction did for the samurai movie what Lock, Stock did for the gangster film. Its fast-cutting, oddball angles and rock and roll soundtrack made samurai accessible to a generation raised on, well, videos like Nakano's.
I want to create new things for a new generation. You can't just remake old movies. There is no point. I want to make movies which the kids now can relate to.
But what really sets Nakano apart from his predecessors is his pacifistic approach to the slice-and-dice epic.
My heroes don't attack in my films. They defend.
In his latest film, Red Shadow, a peacenik ninja fends off an attack like a cricket batsman defending his wicket.
It was hard for the fight choreographers. They would direct the actor to pull out a sword to attack, and I would say no, no.
Well, we've seen some great samurai action, present and past, but if you still think a Ronin is someone who used to be in a boys' band, then stick around. You've got a lot to learn. Still to come, the great ninja controversy. Drowning, not waving in Onibaba. Art fresh from the oven. And who the man? He the man. Kurosawa. A cool samurai guy meets a sexy lady ninja in the brilliant anime Ninja Scroll. So, scroll them.
Do me a favor. You see, I'm lost, and I need to find the quickest way from here to Kikyo.
Ninja Scroll is a sweeping epic set in feudal Japan. It's about a wandering young Ronin, or freelance samurai, named Jubei. Jubei rescues a beautiful lady ninja named Kagero from a sex-crazed monster, and together they confront a series of fierce demons. Ninjas are, of course, incredibly cool. Silent, invisible spies and assassins. So different from the samurai going around waving those big, huge swords and shouting stuff in Japanese. But you know what? It's quite possible that ninjas never actually existed. Scholars say there's no record of any so-named institution or clan prior to the 20th century. Ninjas may have been invented after the war, either for their entertainment value or to inspire a defeated nation. Anyway, back to our story. Just when we think Jubei and Kagero are going to get down for some ninja nookie, we learn that Kagero is quite literally poison. Any man who makes love to her will die. Later, Jubei learns that getting jiggy with her is the only antidote to a poison he has been given, but his strict samurai code will not allow it. Such was the tragic life of the samurai.
I'm not human being, I'm a breadman.
Breadman is a performance artist who pays respect to his elders.
This is my mama.
His mum features heavily in his art.
I make this big shoes. This one, mama's friend, neighbor. That generation, they are very heavy sick because they're working in very hard work after Second War. Then mama, Alzheimer, she's broken the neck, she's broken the stomach. Japanese people don't like my performance. Some mama said, hey, my kid, don't touch him, don't watch him. Breadman's very dirty, like a dirty thing.
I'm hugging a sandwich.
Breadman, my nickname, but sometimes very dangerous. For example, New York City, they said, hey, you, what are you doing? I kill you. And I did a Breadman performance in a cheap restaurant in Moscow. Owner and waiters coming, they pushing me and kick me. So many people, very poor. They want to eat the bread, not Breadman performance, you know. I'm human being, not Breadman.
Never mind, Breadman, your mother and definitely the pigeons still love you.
Japanorama.
It was the 14th century and feudal Japan was at civil war. Deserting samurai warriors roamed the countryside, stealing from peasants in order to survive. Kanato Shindo's Onibaba tells the story of two starving women, their man away in battle, who murder these roaming samurai and sell their possessions. The older woman is worried that her daughter-in-law will run off with a local farmer, leaving her to fend on her own. She hatches a plan when, in the pit where they dump their victims, she gets inspired by a strange mask worn by a samurai officer.
度外な美しい顔しとるんじゃ。これが侍の大将の顔か。共産部下を殺したんじゃから。こういうことは当たり前の報いじゃの。
She dons the mask to scare the young woman away from the farmer, but it all goes horribly wrong. She should really have seen it coming. After all, Onibaba means old lady monster. For both peasants and samurai, the 14th century was the pits. Now a 21st century tale about two sisters who help women cope with today's roaming warriors. Well, I'm surprisingly excited. I'm just about to meet up with two of the most famous women in Tokyo, if indeed not Japan, the Kano sisters. I don't actually know what they do. I don't know why they're famous, but apparently when they do appear in public, it causes something of a stir. So I'm going to go and get them out of their car now, and we're going to find somewhere nice and quiet to chat. Kyoko and Mika Kano burst on the scene in 1998. They don't sing, they don't act, and it's been rumoured that they're not even sisters. But one thing's for sure, no party or premiere is ever complete without them. Hello, wow. Lovely to meet you. Come on out, ladies. Here we are. Wow. I think so far no one's noticed us. I think we can sneak away inconspicuously. So I'll follow your lead, shall I? This is remarkable. What do you actually do? Why are you famous here? What do people know you for?
I don't know myself.
You don't know either? To try and find an answer, I studied their vast catalogue of videos. Kyoko seems to spend her time making herself look good, while Mika, the minx, works out her kinks on the links. But for all the fun they seem to be having, the sisters do have an important message to get across.
I find Japanese women work so hard to please men without thinking about their personal individuality. I tell them it's no good for them. They seem to be shocked by my opinions, as if no one has dared say such things before.
They are one of the 7 Japanese mysteries.
The modern-day samurai is alive and well and living in the Japanese salaryman. Because just like samurai, today's salaryman is a victim to his own devotion to duty. They are all victims.
Their glamorous feminism seems to have struck a chord with Japanese women. Over 80% of their fans are female.
Oh, I think they're so beautiful.
The sisters have wasted no time in releasing a full range of merchandise, including, of course, their dolls, their artwork, and a collection of beauty and self-help books. So as the Kano sisters continue their crusade to modernise Japanese womanhood, do they still have any hope for loving relationships with men?
In my opinion, a human relationship is just like the relationship between sea creatures. I mean, a sea urchin wouldn't have a clue how a squid is feeling, and a sardine would never be understood by a shark.
What my sister means is there are so many people in the world, and we never feel exactly the same way. We are all just like plankton, really. Is that what you meant?
You just don't understand at all, do you?
Can there be samurai pop videos, we at Japanorama asked? Can there not be, came the response. Can you be more specific, we replied. Can you stop bothering me? I'm just a rhetorical device, came the final word on the subject. So, simply enjoy. Young Rupert Parks of St Albans, better known as the ultra-hip drum and bass producer Photek, called on the ultra-hip samurai director and Japanorama fave-rave Hiroyuki Nakano for this samurai video. You've seen evidence tonight of a samurai-style battle of the sexes, so you may ask, where's it all headed? Well, you've seen the one-armed swordsman, now get ready for the no-sword armsman. And here comes the response, Kano Sisters styling. There is one towering figure responsible more than any other for the world's fascination with samurai, film director Akira Kurosawa. We can certainly never do justice to the work of the master in such a short time, but no look at samurai would be complete without at least a taste. Kurosawa, himself a descendant of samurais, is without doubt the best known and most admired Japanese film director. Seven Samurai is about a village of farmers who are about to be raided by bandits. They decide to recruit a ragtag bunch of unemployed samurai to protect them. This 3.5-hour epic was the most expensive picture Toho Studios had ever made. Luckily, it was a huge hit, and audiences were captivated by the brilliant intensity of Toshiro Mifune, Kurosawa's favourite leading man. Between 1948 and 1965, Kurosawa and Mifune made 16 films together. Throne of Blood was Kurosawa's samurai take on Macbeth. Perhaps my favourite Kurosawa film is Yojimbo, in which an amoral samurai wanders into a lawless hellhole. He decides to pit its two slimy gangs against each other, wiping out everybody in the process. In 1965, after a grueling year-long shoot for Redbeard, Mifune and Kurosawa had a falling out and almost never spoke again. Kurosawa died in 1998, Mifune a year later. But their legacy is awesome. Together, they created the prototype for the modern action movie. So tonight we've seen a lot of Japanese people, one assumes, flashing big swords around, but what have we learned? All guests must die before 12 noon. Oyasumu nasai. Good night.
It's the future in Japan next on BBC Choice.